Minisode!
Minisode!
Minisode finale.
For the last time.
Welcome to Ion Horror's Talking Titans, the Minisode series where we sit down and we talk about the Boulet brothers, Dragula. This season is Titans season 2 on Shudder. Spoilers ahead. We haven't really been giving those warnings at all, but it's a recap
Y'all know
series.
at this point. We're spoiling the shit out of this.
Before we get into it, though, let me introduce my co-host. Today we have Mr. Waylon Jordan. How are you today?
I'm great. Having a blast. Ready to just shade the hell out of all of this. I'm just saying.
Let's do this. Before we get shady, let's bring in our other host, Sir Lindsey Gant. How are you today?
Doing great. I am marking our timeline down to 0 incidences since the last time the Boulets messed up a finale of some sort.
It's not a Dragula season without at least one episode being delayed, but like an hour and a half delay on the finale. Ooh, that one hurt quite a bit. But before we get into things, let's do a quick recap of the last 2 episodes. Episode 9 last week, we saw the Last Supper reunion where they bring back all but the 2 disqualified cast members back to serve looks and talk about their experiences. Some people came away with a very positive attitude and some did not, and some left early. It was revealed to the remaining cast members that a side game, the Hellbound Showdown, was being performed every week between the challenges. And so we got to witness our final Hellbound Showdown, which was a 3-way lip sync battle to Time to Die by the Boulets, because of course, got to plug that LP, between Jaharia, Cynthia Doll, and Sigourney Beaver, with the winner being Jaharia, adding her as the 4th finalist to go up against Abora, Eva Destruction, and JK in the finale. Now, last night, after an hour and a half delay, we finally got to watch the finale to Titans season 2, where we saw the 4 of them go at it. The theme this year was the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, and they had to put their own unique spins on those 4. After a very long wait, we finally see the winner, Eva Destruction, winning the 2nd crown of Dragula Titans. That's our season. That was the grand finale. Let's get into that reunion because boy, howdy, did a lot happen. And I'm not just talking about Priscilla and Abora locking fingers and toes.
Before we get into the really mess of it, can I just say, for fuck's sake, Loris was the best thing ever. Like, I just loved that moment so much.
Mm-hmm.
Dracmorda just turning around and looking at her like, the fuck are you even doing here?
Loris, famously, not the biggest fan of on Dragula. Loris, outside of Dragula, the TV show, love. She's great. She wasn't in competition. She could just show up as she wanted. I think they had like a theme of like, oh yeah, it's your funeral dress up or whatever. And so she came in like the most Loris look ever, and she was comfortable. She wasn't being judged. She was just there being herself, and I enjoyed the fuck out of her. It was a nice reminder of like these competitors, how they act, what they do on this show does not encompass their entire work. It's just like they always say, it's how it pertains in this series. And I've pretty much softened on everyone I had a strong opinion on at the beginning of the season, except for one person, maybe 2.
Oh, Dahlia, got it. I already forgot about her.
God, well, she made herself easy to forget, or at least easy for us to want to forget her by the end of this. And she was no better on the goddamn reunion show. I mean, here's her moment to be a human being for an hour, and she couldn't even manage that. She got, 10 minutes in and then said, hey, I'm out? I mean...
You know what? I'm kind of okay with that. She realized that she wasn't going to bring anything else to the table. She, was hearing that everybody had critiques of her, and why should she have to sit there and take it, just for the sake of the show? I honestly think that was a really great move for deciding to be like, I don't want to be here anymore, I'm just gonna leave. And that's kind of a thing I do in my own life.
I mean, honestly, in her defense, she did show up. She did, do the thing where everyone got to shit on her. She was just like, all right, well, I'm making my case. And then she wasn't wrong. Like, what else do you need from me? You got what you needed from me. I don't need to be here. I think that was self-preservation. I think that was really mature of her in some capacities. I think it was really mature of her to go like, I don't need to be here, and this isn't healthy for me to just sit here and looking like an angry child, because I'm just gonna sit here with stank face the whole time. So I'm gonna dip. Hey, you guys got what you need from me? All right, peace. And on some levels that's very mature. On some levels it's not. At the end of the day, I think that she was doing what she needed for her, and I think that's respectable.
She does have resting child face.
Petulant.
Vigilance.
Petulant child.
But that was far from all of the drama for this episode. I mean,
Correct.
The reunion, they really showed out on the reunion in some ways. I mean, and I love that the Boulet brothers were intentionally just kind of saying, okay, now you two do it. Okay, now you two confront one another. And just like, let's get all this shit out of the air while we're here.
My favorite part of these reunion shows are these fake commercial breaks that they have, just to give it a moment of like, all right, this is a structured conversation. We're having a structured thing. We're having a moment to talk. And they say, okay, we're going to take a break now. And it's just a moment for everybody to kind of just like whisper to the side and have a little bit drama between them.
Was like one commercial break where Eva was going off about, I think it was like her and Sigourney's thing, and then all of a sudden Cynthia's just like translucent, and it was just the
Right?
funniest fucking thing. I think I rewound that like 5 times. Just translucent. It's like, bitch, you have no idea what's going on, do you? Like, I love
I love
Cynthia
her
so much, and I'm so glad that clip from her season is popping up more again, where Organics was calling her a dumb bitch who thought Argentina was in Mexico. A cube is a circle. A cube is a square. Because there was that whole bit where BlackBerry was calling her out and being like, so you got pissed at me for not following a plan I didn't know about. She's like, yeah. And you sabotaged me running everything. Yeah. And all this stuff. Yeah. And you're mad about that. And like all this. She's like, yeah. Basically just like calling her out hard. And Cynthia's like, yeah.
Jaharia loses it.
And the editors did her dirty because they played like a dial-up tone as she was saying, they're going, yeah, just like blank face. But she's such a sweetheart. How could you not still love her?
I will say for her, I'm not sure I wouldn't have gone with her instead of Jaharia out of the final Hellbound showdown.
No, she killed it.
She
really
was
did.
out there. She was working her ass off in that.
Mhm.
And I'm not sure that Jaharia had it the way that she had in that final one. I mean, she didn't stand in the middle of the stage and just lip sync and point at people. I mean, that was a choice, but
who would do that? Who would do that if you had your one last chance to make it to the finale? Who would do that?
So actually, before we get into the Hellbound Showbound, because I think it leads into it a bit, let's talk about the beaver in the room. Let's talk about Sigourney. And
beaver in the room
and her confrontation with Eva. I don't know if it went as if she planned, because I do remember when we were watching episode 8, I turned to Lindsey, I was like, oh god, Sigourney's going to come back for the top 4 because it's like a shoo-in. But then there's that reminder that it's a showdown. Just because she won one doesn't mean she's going to win the rest, and she's going against 2 very strong competitors. But her whole argument for Eva to keep her was for good competition, and that last Hellbound showdown was a good example of to the contrary. How do you guys feel that her and Sigourney handled the confrontation at the reunion between the two, airing out the grievances? I should actually say.
I don't know if it can be a confrontation if neither one of them are actually listening to one another, first of all. And Eva might have been trying to listen, but Sigourney was not trying to listen at all. I mean, she was just sitting there repeating the same things over and over and over again, while also saying that she hadn't said certain things, even though they had just played a video of her saying the things that she said she hadn't said.
Mm-hmm.
And she just seemed to be talking in a circle, and Eva was trying to talk at her or to her. I'm still not sure on that. But yeah, I'm not sure that they got anywhere, and certainly not that they're going to be hanging out anytime soon. I mean, who was it? JK in the finale who said they were going to Boca this weekend? I mean, just just joking, but I don't think any plans to hang out are going to happen anytime soon after that blow up.
Yeah. It certainly was a lot. And I mean, JK definitely jumped in and didn't diffuse at all. If anything, just continued to attack on Sigourney. So there's definitely a bit of a gang up, but she also, I don't know, with these groups, there's an ask for a lot of vulnerability between the cast members. And I feel like the ones that were the least vulnerable were the ones that everyone kind of reacted negatively towards, thinking Sigourney and Dahlia both. They both, even though one was more outwards in like going on the offensive against people, I feel like putting up those type of defensive walls was might be what they need to protect themselves and to keep themselves healthy. But I don't know if the other competitors saw that. So definitely, it felt a little ganging up, but I mean, she wasn't backing down. Again, I see the side where that's commendable. I see the side where that seems like a jerk move. Either way, any statements about her being better competition than others went out the door during that lip sync challenge. These people were put out there to fight for their lives and to fight to get into this finale. And Sigourney stood there serving. I'll admit she served. I think that's great. It's not a bad performance, but in the context of this competition, which is what are you willing to do to be in the final spot for the finale, to just stand there while everyone else is going ham is not enough and was not meeting the challenge.
Especially since she brought the drama she's experiencing into that competition. Like her big shtick was lighting her finger on fire and then flipping off the rest of the queens. Like at that point, you're just bringing in like the anger that you have and frustration for what's happening, but not actually doing like the performance for performance sake. Like that's kind of just more for TV, I thought. I feel like that's mostly been what she's been doing, is just having this ego for something that absolutely, I mean, it's earned for sure. But in terms of this competition, this show specifically, I just haven't seen her be up to par with what needs to happen in order to actually take the crown home.
Yeah.
And if that's all she's doing, it's just like focusing on her ego, focusing on like trying to get back at people who had said bad things about her. You're just not going to get further in this competition. It's not going to pan out for you in the way you think it's going to at this point, especially when everybody else, or at least like those two on the stage with her at that point, were bringing it. They're all trying to do everything they can to get into that last stage and have one last chance to get to the finale. But it just seemed like at that point, that wasn't her priority. Her priority was getting back at people who said bad things about her.
Which I love the lighting the finger on fire. And I've said this before about her stuff. When she does incorporate something different, I love it. It's just never enough. It's never a big thing. So like if a big part of her performance to Time to Die would have been a fuck you to the rest of the cast, own that. Go up and down the stage, get up on people's faces, lip syncing and like doing moves around them, flipping them off, and then ultimately light your fingertips, your middle finger on fire and flip everyone off. That would have been a great finale if that was like
a great finale,
a part of the performance, but it wasn't. Meanwhile, like Cynthia is just fucking flossing prancing all over the stage.
Yeah,
pouring blood all over herself, and Jahari is twerking her ass off. I mean, it's
even like the biggest Sigourney fan, like I don't understand like how they could look at that and be like, no, Sigourney should win this. She should be back in the competition. Like, I don't know. I just feel like people are at that point are just being a bit closed-minded.
Yeah.
I mean, if you are going to have the ego, like Lindsey said, and if you are going to say all of these things, and if you are going to, put yourself up and say, don't you want real competition in this finale and everything, then you need to be able to prove that you can bring real competition. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if in that moment she had maybe she had given up a little bit. Maybe she was beaten down over it. That's possible too. In a moment like that, who knows what's going on? But I think that really, I mean, it was all talk, no game when it came especially down to that last part before, they decided who was going to go. And, they weren't the only ones to bring so much drama in the middle of this thing, but like it was such a focus.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It made for good television for 5 minutes, but I'm not sure that there was any kind of payoff for it.
I loved Disasterina in the reunion. Thought she was a lot of fun. She kind of almost was antagonizing some people, though, in a way that maybe I didn't really expect from her. I think she came after Priscilla a couple times.
She did, but it was a jest.
Yeah, exactly. She was being funny about it.
Yeah, there was that whole moment where she was just basically like, and you don't work hard enough, you dirty hag, or something like that. At Priscilla, and you see Priscilla just being like, what?
Wait, what? Me?
Like it seemed like one of those things, like when you're in a meeting and like one of your friends is like dazed off and like glassy eyed, and then you just say something to put them on the spot, and they're just what? Oh no, fuck you too. That's what it felt like. I just love that one part where Sigourney turned to Priscilla and was like, I thought you were gonna have be behind me, like have my back. She's like, girl, I've been behind you this whole time. And I was sitting there going, like physically, because yes.
You are sitting right behind her.
I don't know if it was the edit, but like, girl, you didn't say shit while she was getting attacked by Eva and everyone else. Um, so we have our final four, right? Jaharia, Eva Destruction, JK, and Abora. And they're giving a month to create their own takes on the four horsemen of the apocalypse for the finale. Now, this is different from the usual because usually it's three looks based on the tenets of Dragula: filth, glamour, and horror. I was hoping that people would take advantage of that and still hold those tenets in there, but again, I didn't see much filth. What did you guys think of the finale looks?
I thought it was a really good decision to do the Four Horsemen because they kind of inherently bring in the tenets of Dracula. So you have pestilence, which is definitely should be more filthy. That kind of ties in together. You have death, which is definitely more of the horror, and things you could always bring in more glam to stuff whenever you can. I thought that was a fun change of pace, different topics there, and I had fun with what they chose to do for most of them. Other ones I am questioning.
I wasn't against the theme. The thing that I think really, and it feels like it kind of tripped up most of the finalists, is the sheer number of looks they had to do. They had to do four rather than the historical three. And I think that got into some people's heads, except for one. There was one person who seemed like they were prepared for something like that and had a consistency throughout all their things.
You would think that with so many different looks that they had to come up with, that you wouldn't have a Bora who did somehow went over the top for all of them.
Oh my
Somehow
god.
she did too much for having too many looks. Like she was, I was very impressed with like what she was wanting to do. I loved the pale knight or the horse coming out, the horse of death. I love that the whole look at the end. It was just very depressing seeing every single moment when it fell apart and something just broke, and her look of sadness and desperation there at the end. But I hope that maybe that was maybe a choice on the editors on they focus a bit more on that kind of stuff and having it be bad the whole time. But I don't know. I'm not sure. But I liked what she was trying to do at least.
Yeah. Abora, I felt regressed a bit where she Icarused herself and flew too close to the high concept sun. She had so many props, she had so many bits in the thing, she had so much tech stuff, and it just opened the door for malfunctions. Every single one of her looks had some form of a malfunction, except for maybe the first one, which was Pestilence. I thought they were all fantastic, and if they had worked, she could have easily been like a number two spot, but or like or right on the ass of the winner. But yeah, it unfortunately those malfunctions were major.
But hey, you can say that she bled for her art.
That was punk rock as fuck.
Y'all know how I felt about Abora. We started off talking about Abora at the beginning of this podcast season. And I don't know how I went from that to I was sitting and watching her perform. And at some point, I was just like, oh, God, Abora.
Yeah.
No, not another one. Like, it was just like I felt so bad. And I just wanted to hug Abora. This is after how I felt at the beginning of this season. I think we saw her do so much this season and bring just enough the whole season, going over the top occasionally, doing the things that she does so well. And we got to this, and God, I was cringing every time something happened, like the arrow stopping short. I was like, oh, surely it can't get worse than this. And then the horse came out and she's bleeding and it's nearly tipping over. And I was just like, God, just one moment. I just wanted to have one good moment in this finale.
And then they revealed that her pestilence look also had a malfunction, which they didn't show in the initial performance. And it was just like, oh no. Ugh.
What was the look that she had where she had like the giant like helmet, like almost like fox head?
Yeah, war.
War. I thought that was beautiful. Honestly, probably one of my favorite looks of the night. So she did have something there where if she had stuck with that level and quality throughout all four of them, I think she could have gone through with it. It was just something I just did not expect from her in a way that I don't know, I really appreciated and wanted to see more of.
But that was the first malfunction they showed. They showed her sword break in half. And then so she started doing
Yeah, but
some
then
like,
she immediately started doing other stuff. So she was able to go with it, and then she threw the sword away and she kept going. So she could have made that part of the like we know that wasn't intentional, but she kept going with the performance and kind of killed it with movements afterwards.
Yeah,
yeah,
she did what a good performer does. When something goes wrong, you just keep going. You find a way to make it work. And again, just so impressed.
Yeah.
I felt so bad for
yeah,
her. I really wish it had worked out better.
yeah.
And
And
also that beard.
Oh my
oh
God.
yeah.
What a great beard.
How did we forget to mention she just shows up and has a fucking full beard? I mean, gone for a month, but like beard?
Yeah, Abhorrent's the kind of person that you just don't think can actually grow a beard. Like, like maybe it
I
just doesn't
know.
grow. You know, she's always so clean shaven. But yeah, that was something. That was really
Listen, we
something.
had a lot of assumptions about her, and she's just throwing those to the window.
It was great. Yeah, I'm so happy for everything that she's done this season. We've seen some amazing art. We've seen her really go for it, really grow, and I think she didn't get the crown, but she definitely like showed some amazing art and improvement. So yeah,
What do we think about JK?
I almost have to agree with what the Boulet brothers said. It just felt like another bodysuit with some paint, and I mean it. She again had so much potential up there, and she had good concepts, but on her end, she didn't do enough with them. It was
yeah,
like she was on the opposite end. I did love, was it Famine or Pestilence with the apple? That was really cool, and I really liked that. But other than that, it just she didn't seem like, I don't know if four was too much for her or what, but it did seem like she phoned it in a little bit.
yeah. I don't know if it was phoning it in, but it did feel a bit of a regression to a kind of incompleteness that we saw on her original season, and that hurt a lot because I was going into this finale going, it's JK versus Eva with Abora being lined up for an upset. Like it's anyone's game, and by the second look, it was pretty clear who was going to be the winner, but with that first look, it was very clear that it wasn't JK. And it was because she went out there and her back was completely exposed. That zipper was wide the fuck open. And if your look is pretty much a bodysuit and that bodysuit isn't holding together, it's in the context of this competition, in the finale, it's inexcusable.
I was so confused by that first look. I'm still thinking about it, and I don't know what the hell it was. Like she was dragging something with her. She laid on top of it for a moment.
Yeah.
Like it was just like, I don't know, like bring the filth to the pestilence one. Like that's what it's there for. There was like no filth. They could have had some gore, liquid of some sort, pus, anything to add to the look that was really just like a bodysuit with like a sheet.
Yeah, when you're carrying around something that looks like egg sacs or something, like break that bitch open, let something nasty run out of it. It would have
Yeah,
helped.
that'd been great. Yeah.
It would have been great if it was filled with like water balloons or something, so that when she plopped on it, it suddenly just started seeping out or something
Oh
like
yeah.
nasty. I think I've said it to like 8 different people this season. Where's my filth? Where's my blasphemy? Where's my fucked upness? Because season 1 we had Melissa B. Fierce use rosary beads as anal beads, and we haven't hit anything like that. We've hit some stuff that got close to it, but like this finale, there was a lot of that not there. Now, Jaharia had some really strong looks in this. What was it? Was it her war with the gold puking?
Yes, that was
That was
interesting.
cool.
Yeah, I really liked that. It's something like a cross between vomit and a beard. I don't know, but it was growing out of her mouth, and I loved it.
Yeah, that was
I'm not
awesome.
sure her COVID pestilence thing entirely worked, but it was the only thing that we saw from pretty much anyone that was like a total coverage
It's also a
outfit
little
like that.
goofy.
Yes, it
Yeah.
was a little goofy.
When
I'm
she
not
came
sure that
running
it
in, she's
said
just like, "Boo."
yes. I'm not sure that it said COVID either. You know, if she hadn't told us that's what it was, then I'm not sure that we would have gotten it.
Yeah. I would have thought like trash monster, garbage sludge or something.
Yeah, she was definitely like the biggest faceless ugly doll out there, you know. And then, of course, we have the crowned winner, Eva, who I think
Miss
was
Eva Destruction.
Miss Eva Destruction, who I think was the most consistent and detailed of the finale of the finalists. Of course, I'm gonna say it again. Wish there was more filth, but everything was detailed. Everything was in place. The concept was there. When she came out, you knew exactly what she was. And she did a few surprising bits. I thought the death and having her like she's floating, bravo.
So cool. Just goes into the boat.
It was a simple technique and it worked. It worked.
And I'm sorry, but her war look, all I could think was Mother of Pinhead. It just like that's what popped into my head when I saw her spin around and all those daggers and everything went flying around her. I was like, yes, this, I would wear this. Like, somebody give me one. Give me one. I want to wear this out. Like, this is how much space I want around me at all times.
Eva made a couple critical role references throughout the show. So I now understand Eva is just a total nerd. And I totally understand her looks now, being able to pull in like some of the fantasy, the nerd, that kind of culture into stuff. And I love it even more so for that purpose.
I turned to Lindsey and I just went, what mid 2000s Capcom video game did this character just pop out of? Because she looked like something straight out of like Devil May Cry or Bayonetta, something like that. She looked like a mini boss, and I was here for it. But she had it was the most consistent. She had the most details. It was hers. To be honest, by the time the second looks came, it was just, this is Eva's. She's got it. And you know what? She was.
The entire season, she was just completely on point. Like, there was no thought whatsoever that she would not go to the next round.
Yeah. I think one of the things that was so hard and difficult about this finale is this was an exhausting season. This was a very high energy, high drama, high. You're leaving every episode going, what the fuck just happened for the last hour? And I don't know if it was because of certain personalities weren't in the finale, certain things were that. Like, it just kind of felt like all the energy in the room just kind of left after the reunion. And it was just, which is fine, because it's like, all right, let's celebrate these people's arts. But it was definitely, I don't know, dude. The tension wasn't, for me, I didn't feel it there. And I wonder if it was just because we just spent the last fucking month and a half just kind of like being put through the ringer as audience members with them. And then we're here and it's like, all right, everyone's here and everyone really likes each other and everyone's real stoked to be here. And like, everyone seems really confident and there's no drama. Okay, let's just go right into the competition. And it's always great seeing full as like more floor shows and stuff, but like there was no suspense, in basically going like by the second look going, it's Eva's, we weren't sitting on the edge of our seats.
I will say the crowning was amazing. I loved that little sequence. That was incredible. So at least leading up to that point, it was fun watching the performances, hearing what Boulet had to say, and then going on to the crowning, which we actually had a full crowning this time. First time we saw Victoria in a crown as well.
Yeah, thank God it wasn't just a picture. So that was Boulet Brothers Dragula Titan Season 2. How excited are you guys to see some new blood? By the time I get to the end of Titans, I'm like, all right, I need some new people. I need some fresh blood in here.
I think after you watch a season of heavy hitters, but people that you've already seen before, you just, that craving is really there. Show me something different. Show me something new. Show me someone who has new ideas or a new way of doing this. And I think that's just natural at this point, and I'm definitely interested to see who they bring in next.
I'm definitely looking forward to seeing new people and seeing who can make the ranks of the next Titans whenever we get that one too.
Now, the Boulets hinted at some other folks that they might want to bring back from one of those early seasons, either in the main competition show or Titans. Who is someone who has not been on Titans that you guys would want to see either come back for the next season or the next season of Titans?
Well, we already talked about Coco before, but I think I would love to see Coco again. And I think that she would have what it takes to be a Titan. And hopefully she can get a chance to actually perform on a future Titan show.
I mean, I just because I've referenced her all the time. I know it's a little cheating because she was on Titans season 1, but Melissa B. Fierce, I would love to see her in a competition. I think it would be a bit rude to put her in like the main, but having her back in some way, I think would be awesome. Another one I would love to see, even if it's just kind of like an update, is Louisiana Purchase from season 3.
I liked her.
Oh, she was amazing. I would love to see like what she's been doing, how her art has evolved.
Somebody else I loved that was in Resurrection is Kendra Onyx. She didn't
Yeah,
get super far in Resurrection, but I mean, giving her another chance, she was fun to watch for sure. And
totally.
also from season 5, Orgotic.
I would love to see Organa come back. That
I
sure
was
was so
like, I don't know
spicy.
about this guy. I don't know. I don't know. No idea, but then definitely grew on me throughout the entire season. Very fun. Very interesting drag. Would love to see that again. But yeah, that was a great season. I had a lot of fun. Like it was kind of crazy. There's a lot of people on it, and I loved most of them. And people that I didn't love, like they brought good TV. So there's that.
Everyone put on some amazing, unique, and different art that's not being seen anywhere else. And to put yourself in front of a bunch of cameras and to put your not just your art but yourself on display like that is so commendable and major. So really, I think everyone just absolutely killed it. And yeah, I had a lot of fun. So yeah, you guys want to do this again next season?
Well, you guys tell us, the audience, you tell us. Do you want to hear more about this, not just for Titans? Maybe we'll come back for the next actual Dragula season. Since we've only done the podcast for Titans before, maybe we can go back and do the new season,
We'll
whenever that
see.
is.
We'll see. But until then, as always, our artwork is by Chris Fisher, so go check him out. Our theme music is by Restless Spirits, so Restless Spirits, go check them out. You can find us at Ion Horror on the social medias or at iHorror.com, the website we call home. Waylon, where can we find you?
Go check me out on Facebook, W. Dale Jordan Author. You can also find me at wdalejordanauthor.com, and I'm on Instagram at just Waylon Jordan.
Awesome. You can find myself and Lindsey on the Ion Horror socials. So until next time, thank you all for listening to us bitch and moan and giggle. And this is always a lot of fun and worth the work. So thank you again. Thank you for listening to Talking Titans. I'm Jonathan Correia.
I'm Lindsey.
And I'm Waylon.
And keep on talking Titans.
Titans, we are talking Titans. Yeah.
That was a great finale.
Do you think those were Sigourney's ashes in that urn?